If you've already seen our previous video with Jim Hagedorn and Jennifer Carnahan, you may be wondering, what happened to that child predator who looks like the spawn of Harvey Weinstein and the dude from Prison Break? Well, before we get to that, let me reintroduce you to Jim Hagedorn. The son of a congressman, Jim followed in his father's footsteps and was elected to the 1st District of Minnesota, during which time he wrote this incredible song that we only partially revealed in a previous video.
Dan Feehan is the great pretender. He repeats what Omar and Pelosi said. He's not one of us, so how can we trust a man who's a transplanted cheesehead? Dan Feehan is the great pretender. He's a big city mouse in the country. He'll destroy your health plan, go green with your land, not singing your song, to put it bluntly. Dan Feehan is the great pretender.
Paid for by friends of Hagedorn.
I'm Jim Hagedorn, and I approve this message.
So, obviously, Jim won re-election in 2020, and he served in Congress until his very recent demise on February of 2022. And when we heard about Congressman Hagedorn's passing, despite countless hours of research, we planned to focus our attention elsewhere, until his wife, Jennifer Carnahan, the former chair of the Minnesota GOP, announced her intention to run for Jim's congressional seat, in spite of their close relationship for years with Tony Lazzaro, a far-right Republican donor and activist who Jennifer proudly said was, quote, one of the biggest advocates and champions in the Republican Party of Minnesota. Until Tony was indicted by the FBI in 2021 on 10 counts related to the sex trafficking of minors. Somehow, this real Instagram post from 2020 wasn't a small enough clue. According to the FBI, Lazzaro hired this 19-year-old college student when she was 16 to seek out and groom 14 to 16-year-old girls, who Lazzaro gave lavish gifts. Lazzaro even tried to bribe one of his underage victims and her father with $1,000 to sign an NDA stating that the relationship was consensual. Nevertheless, despite the mountains of evidence against Lazzaro, including this real channel artwork that might make you vomit, until he's proven guilty, our lawyers recommend we let Jennifer Carnahan be the judge.
I believe he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison, and he probably should, right? I think that's likely what's going to happen.
Meanwhile, Carnahan is now attempting to distance herself from Lazzaro, claiming that they were just acquaintances and
a political friend, like the hundreds of other political friends I have all over the state.
But many of her own colleagues have contradicted this, so let's look at the evidence. First off, there's the many pictures of them together. Then there's this article Lazzaro wrote in 2018 defending Carnahan from attacks. Or how about this podcast that they co-hosted together, which was unbelievably titled #Truth Matters. Also, according to Jennifer Carnahan, Lazzaro's connections run deep.
There were so many Republicans in our party who knew and were friends with Mr. Lazzaro. Many Republican elected officials who knew or accepted contributions from him, other activists, other, grassroots leaders.
And based on Lazzaro's website, he is desperate to show off. For example, since Lazzaro is a Mormon, here he is with Mitt Romney. And this is Congressman Tom Emmer. Notice the Carnahan t-shirt. Also, there's Tucker Carlson, and Lindsey Graham, and Marco Rubio, and Mike Pence, and the legend himself, Donald Trump, which now has Fox News wondering, could this be a terrorist thumb jab?
I'm asking questions, then.
Also, here's Lazzaro at a Trump rally.
Get him out of here. Out.
And that woman next to him, that's the Minnesota GOP finance chair, Carnahan's close friend and colleague. Oh, and this is neat. Here's Lazzaro on Russian television, Putin's state-controlled propaganda network. And here he is again, and again, and again. Not to be outdone, of course, by Fox News. And more Fox, and more Fox, and more Fox, and somehow even more Fox. In fact, just as Lazzaro was arrested, this segment by Tucker Carlson aired in 2021, claiming that Representative Ilhan Omar married her own brother.
What will be more shocking to her fellow liberals, the fact that Ilhan Omar had an incestuous marriage to her own brother, or that she smoked cigarettes? Which will they be more stunned by?
But guess where this evidence came from?
This guy.
That's immoral.
Journalism. Fun fact, when Lazzaro was asked about the allegations against him, he tellingly responded, quote, "There's nothing to this case. It's not some Matt Gaetz or whatever you think this is." Apparently, the only people who still believe Matt Gaetz is QAnon? Regardless, let's return now to Jennifer Carnahan, who about a month after Jim passed, announced that she'll be running for Jim's congressional seat. And apparently, for the first time since getting married in 2018, Jennifer has begun using Jim's last name, which, according to Breitbart, does not come as a surprise. One senior GOP aide said, quote, "The only thing Jennifer Carnahan loved about Jim Hagedorn was his seat in Congress. The fact that she's now using his death for political gain is absolutely disgusting." And yet another Republican official said, quote, "I guarantee Jim's friends are going to end up endorsing someone else." And most likely, Jennifer's situation was not helped by this leaked phone call back in 2021 before Jim died, where Jennifer was asked by a concerned friend about Jim being susceptible to COVID while being sick with cancer. And Jennifer joked that it didn't matter because,
you know, I don't care. Jim's he's gonna die of cancer in 2 years. Seriously. Oh, so be it. Yeah.
Nevertheless, Jennifer told Fox News that it was her husband's dying wish that she win this seat for him. And if that's not unbelievable enough, here's a picture Tony Lazzaro retweeted of Trump and Lil Wayne, which is not actually important to the subject at hand. We just really want you all to remember that it happened. Now, if you want more information about Jim, Jennifer, and Tony, or you're just looking for more Hagedorn classics,
Jim's been everywhere, man. Jim's been everywhere. Been to the county fair, man. Every city square, man. Church suppers, he's had his share, man. Jim's been everywhere.
well, you're in luck. Our website is a free and independent resource where you can learn everything you need to know about the people and the organizations that control the world. So if that appeals to you, then visit ontherecord.org, take the Tegridy Challenge, and together, let's bring integrity back, one profile at a time.
Jim's been everywhere.
I'm Jim Hagedorn, and I approve this message.